Breaking, the King just demanded answers from Starmer and the PM couldn't speak. King Charles just did something no British monarch has done in 70 years. He summoned the Prime Minister to Buckingham Palace. He demanded answers, and what the King said in that private meeting has left Westminster in absolute chaos. The Prime Minister walked out trembling. Palace insiders say he looked broken, and what happens in the next 72 hours could bring down the entire Labour government. If you want to see how this constitutional crisis explodes, hit that subscribe button right now, because the mainstream media won't tell you what really happened behind those palace walls. Here's what sparked the crisis. 3 days ago, at 9:47 a.m. on Tuesday morning, leaked documents revealed something explosive. Starmer's government had been secretly discussing plans to strip the monarchy of key constitutional powers. The exact proposal was shocking, removing the royal family's role in appointing prime ministers, dissolving parliament. The documents, allegedly from a classified cabinet meeting held on January 15th, outlined a complete restructuring of Britain's constitutional framework. Sources inside Whitehall described them as the most radical proposals since Oliver Cromwell abolished the monarchy in 1649. But King Charles wasn't staying silent. The monarch wasn't accepting this attack on 300 years of British tradition. Charles demanded an emergency meeting instead, and what the King said in that closed-door confrontation changed everything. The summons arrived at number 10 at 2:15 p.m. yesterday afternoon. A private secretary from Buckingham Palace hand-delivered a sealed letter, no phone call, no email, a physical letter stamped with the royal seal. Downing Street aides who saw Starmer read it said the colour drained from his face. One minister later described him as looking like he'd seen a ghost. The letter was brief but devastating. It demanded Starmer present himself at Buckingham Palace at 6 p.m. that same evening to explain his government's constitutional plans. Not requested, demanded. The language was formal, but the message was unmistakable. The King was furious. Within hours, the hammer fell. Starmer had no choice but to comply. You don't refuse a direct summons from your king. Constitutional experts immediately noted the significance. The last time a monarch summoned a prime minister with this level of urgency was during the Suez Crisis in 1956, said Dr. Catherine Hayden of the Institute for Government. This is unprecedented in modern times. At 5:43 p.m., the Prime Minister's car pulled through the palace gates. Photographers captured the moment. Starmer's face through the window showed barely concealed anxiety. What happened inside that meeting room is sending shockwaves through every corridor of power in Britain. Meanwhile, British veterans who served their country for decades are struggling to access basic healthcare, while Starmer's government spends billions on policies that benefit everyone except the people who built this nation. Derek Williams, a 72-year-old former Royal Marine from Plymouth, waited 9 months for a hip replacement. He told reporters he can barely walk, but was told the NHS has no available beds. His exact words were heartbreaking. "I fought for this country, and now my country has forgotten me." Derek served in the Falklands War. He earned medals for bravery. Now he's being treated like he doesn't matter. While Derek suffers in pain, MPs enjoy private healthcare funded by taxpayers, luxury medical services, zero waiting times, access to top specialists whenever they want. Cabinet ministers can see doctors the same day they call. Their families get priority treatment. The contrast is so stark, so brutal, that even lifelong Labour supporters are questioning their loyalty. British pensioners who paid into the system their entire lives are choosing between heating and eating this winter. Margaret Foster, a 68-year-old widow from Manchester, showed reporters her energy bill. £300 for 1 month. Her state pension is £900. After rent, she has barely enough for food. Her pension doesn't cover basic survival. She's wearing 2 coats indoors just to avoid turning on the heating. She eats 1 meal a day to make her grocery budget stretch. This is Britain in 2025, but Starmer's cabinet ministers claim expenses for heating their second homes. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner claimed £3,700 last year for energy costs on her constituency office. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper expensed £2,400 for heating her second residence. The hypocrisy is staggering. These are the people King Charles is defending. The forgotten British citizens whose voices have been ignored by Westminster elites for too long. Working-class families who built this nation are being abandoned, while politicians lecture them about progress and modernization. And Charles knows that if he doesn't stand up for them, nobody will. The monarch understands what Starmer has forgotten. Britain's strength comes from its traditions, its values, its respect for those who came before. Then something unprecedented happened that nobody saw coming. King Charles broke 70 years of royal protocol and confronted the Prime Minister directly. At Buckingham Palace, surrounded by centuries of British history, he delivered words that will echo through Westminster for generations. You were elected to serve the British people, not to dismantle the institutions that have kept this nation stable for 300 years. Charles declared with barely controlled fury. Palace insiders who were present described his tone as icy but devastating. Every word was measured. Every sentence hit like a hammer. The king wasn't shouting. He didn't need to. His quiet authority filled the room and crushed any response Starmer might have prepared. One senior palace aide later confided to a journalist that the air in the room felt electric. You could cut the tension with a knife, they whispered. His Majesty was angrier than I've ever seen him, but he maintained perfect composure. That made it even more powerful. The Prime Minister, according to 3 separate sources, stood there trembling. He tried to respond. He opened his mouth twice, but no words came out. His hands were shaking. His breathing was shallow. One palace aide later whispered to a senior Conservative MP that they'd never seen a Prime Minister look so utterly defeated. The optics are catastrophic. Starmer, the most powerful elected official in Britain, reduced to silence by a 76-year-old monarch who rarely raises his voice. Charles then revealed what the government had been hiding. He produced the leaked documents, spread them across the antique desk, and demanded explanations. The papers detailed everything: proposed legislation, timelines, even draft press releases announcing the constitutional changes. These proposals would fundamentally alter the constitutional balance that has protected British democracy since 1688, the king stated, his voice rising slightly. You're not reforming the system, you're destroying it. He pointed to specific passages. One section proposed removing the monarch's right to refuse royal assent to legislation. Another suggested making the position of monarch purely ceremonial with no constitutional functions whatsoever. A third outlined plans to remove the royal family from the opening of Parliament. Senior sources revealed that Charles had done his homework. He quoted specific sections of Starmer's proposals back to him, pointed out contradictions, demolished the Prime Minister's justifications one by one. The king even cited legal precedents from constitutional cases dating back to 1688. This wasn't a ceremonial meeting. This was a constitutional interrogation. And Starmer failed spectacularly. According to one source, the Prime Minister managed only weak responses. The proposals are still in draft form, he allegedly stammered. We were planning full consultation, but Charles wasn't accepting excuses. You don't secretly draft legislation to abolish constitutional powers and then claim you wanted consultation, the king reportedly responded. That's not consultation, that's conspiracy. The domino effect started within minutes of that meeting ending. At 7:23 p.m., Starmer's motorcade raced back to Downing Street. Witnesses on Whitehall said the Prime Minister looked shaken through the car window. His tie was loosened. His collar was undone. He looked like a man who'd just survived a disaster. By 8 p.m., emergency calls were going out to senior Labour MPs. Cabinet Secretary Simon Case was seen rushing into number 10 through a side entrance, carrying a folder marked Urgent Constitutional Matters. Something massive was happening. The political earthquake was just beginning. Markets reacted instantly. The pound dropped 1.7% against the dollar in after-hours trading as news of the royal confrontation leaked. Currency traders in Tokyo and New York started dumping sterling the moment rumors hit Bloomberg terminals. Investors were spooked. Political instability means economic chaos. By morning, £2.3 billion had been wiped from the FTSE 100. Major British companies saw share prices tumble. Barclays dropped 3.2%, BP fell 2.8%. Even historically stable firms like Unilever lost value. International investors were dumping British assets faster than traders could process the orders. Economic analysts at Goldman Sachs issued an emergency briefing warning clients about UK political risk. Political fractures opened immediately. Senior Labour MP John Trickett called an emergency meeting of the Socialist Campaign Group at 9:30 p.m. 37 MPs attended via Zoom and in person. rumours spread that they were drafting a letter demanding Starmer explain his constitutional plans to the entire party. But it wasn't just the left-wing rebelling. Moderate Labour MPs from the Blue Labour faction held their own emergency conference call. They're the traditional working-class representatives who still respect British institutions. Sources say they're furious that Starmer attacked the monarchy without consulting them. One MP from a northern constituency reportedly said, "My voters love the king more than they love Labour. If I defend Starmer on this, I'll lose my seat." Conservative MPs smelled blood in the water. Former Home Secretary Suella Braverman went on Sky News at 9:15 p.m. and absolutely destroyed Starmer. "The Prime Minister has been caught trying to reduce our constitutional monarchy to a rubber stamp," she declared. "He's been humiliated by the king because he forgot that the crown represents something bigger than any politician's ego. This is exactly the kind of radical socialist agenda we warned voters about." She held up the leaked documents on camera. "These aren't reforms. This is a revolution that nobody voted for." Conservative Party Chairman Richard Holden immediately launched attack ads. By midnight, billboards appeared across marginal constituencies showing Starmer's face with the caption, "He disrespected your king." Social media exploded. The hashtag King Charles was right started trending globally within 30 minutes. By midnight, it had 4.7 million tweets. Starmer out hit 3.2 million. Defend the monarchy reached 2.8 million. TikTok videos defending the monarchy went viral. One clip of Charles inspecting troops with the caption, "This is what real leadership looks like," hit 8.2 million views in 6 hours. Another video showing Starmer looking uncomfortable at the king's coronation got 5.4 million views, with comments mocking him mercilessly. The British public wasn't just supporting their king, they were turning against their prime minister with unprecedented fury. Protests erupted across London. By 10 p.m., over 2,000 people had gathered outside Buckingham Palace, waving Union Jacks and chanting, "God save the king." Some held signs reading, "Starmer out and respect our traditions." Counter-protesters defending Starmer numbered barely 300. They tried chanting, "Democracy, not monarchy," but were drowned out completely. The optics told the story. Britain was choosing its monarch over its prime minister. By morning, protests spread to Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, and Glasgow. Thousands took to the streets defending the crown. But wait, because there's another layer to this crisis that makes everything worse. Inside Number 10, the atmosphere has become toxic. Ministers are openly questioning Starmer's judgment. Shouting matches have erupted in corridors that usually echo with polite disagreement. David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, allegedly slammed a folder down during a cabinet meeting Thursday morning and demanded to know why he wasn't consulted about constitutional changes. "This affects Britain's relationships with 15 Commonwealth realms," he reportedly shouted, "and I find out about it from leaked documents like everyone else." Another cabinet minister was overheard saying Starmer had lost the plot entirely. The source claims this was Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson speaking to a colleague in a parliamentary corridor. WhatsApp groups with names like Cabinet Concerns and Future Planning are buzzing with messages plotting Starmer's removal. Screenshots leaked to the Telegraph show ministers discussing leadership challenges, vote counts, and succession planning. One message read, "We can't survive another 6 months of this chaos." Another stated the party comes before any individual leader. The question isn't if they'll move against him, it's when. The Parliamentary Labour Party is receiving dozens of calls from MPs demanding an emergency meeting. Angela Rayner has gone conspicuously quiet. She's cancelled 3 television interviews scheduled for this week. Her office says she's focusing on her portfolio. But Westminster insiders know better. She's preparing. Every deputy who goes silent is a deputy measuring the curtains in Number 10. Veteran political journalists recognise the pattern. This is exactly what happened before Tony Blair was pushed out in 2007. Rachel Reeves held a private dinner with 12 Labour MPs on Wednesday night at an upscale Westminster restaurant. The official excuse was discussing economic policy and the upcoming budget, but guests later confirmed they spent 3 hours talking about leadership qualities and what the party needs going forward. Nobody mentioned Starmer's name. They didn't have to. The conversation focused entirely on stability, competence, and respecting British institutions. One MP who attended anonymously told The Times, "We discussed what kind of leader can win back public trust after this disaster. Even Starmer's closest allies are abandoning ship." His director of communications was seen leaving number 10 at 11 p.m. Thursday night, carrying 3 boxes of personal belongings. When reporters asked if he was resigning, he just kept walking, head down. His silence said everything. By Friday morning, confirmation arrived. He'd resigned, citing irreconcilable differences with the Prime Minister's approach. That's political code for "I'm getting out before this sinks completely." Diane Abbott gave an interview that went viral across every news platform. In 43 years in politics, I've never seen a Labour leader self-destruct this spectacularly, she stated bluntly on LBC radio. Picking a fight with the monarchy is political suicide. Every Labour leader learns this on day one. Respect the crown, don't attack it. Starmer apparently missed that lesson. The cabinet is fracturing. The party is in freefall, and Starmer, isolated in his office, is watching his government collapse around him. Here's the twist that could end his premiership completely. Leaked documents from the palace meetings show King Charles didn't just confront Starmer about constitutional changes. He confronted him about something far more damaging. According to 3 senior palace sources, Charles produced evidence that Starmer's inner circle had been briefing journalists against the royal family for months. Anonymous quotes attacking Prince William appeared in 5 major newspapers between November and January. Planted stories questioning the monarchy's relevance ran in The Guardian and The Independent. Coordinated media campaigns designed to weaken public support for the crown emerged across left-wing outlets. The palace tracked them all back to number 10 communication star. If these documents are real, and if they show what palace insiders claim, then Starmer didn't just propose constitutional reforms. He orchestrated a systematic campaign to undermine the institution he's supposed to respect. Think about what that means. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom allegedly used government resources and official channels to attack the monarchy. That's not politics. That's betrayal of his constitutional duty. The optics of that would be absolutely devastating. Senior constitutional lawyers are already calling it potentially illegal. Professor Vernon Bogdanor of King's College London stated if Starmer used government apparatus to undermine the crown, he's violated the ministerial code and his oath of office. This could trigger a constitutional crisis unlike anything Britain has seen since 1936. He warned the Prime Minister swears an oath to serve the sovereign. If he's been actively working to undermine that same sovereign, he's broken that oath. Other legal experts agree. Lord Sumption, former Supreme Court Justice, told the BBC using taxpayer-funded government resources to attack the monarchy could constitute misconduct in public office. At minimum, it's a catastrophic error of judgment. At worst, it's criminal. The leaked evidence apparently includes email chains, WhatsApp messages, and records of phone calls between Downing Street press officers and sympathetic journalists. One email allegedly instructed a press officer to feed stories that make the royals look out of touch and irrelevant. Another reportedly outlined a strategy to gradually shift public opinion away from monarchist sentiment. If this evidence becomes public, Starmer won't just resign. He might face criminal investigation. Meanwhile, the Conservatives and Reform UK are seizing their moment with ruthless efficiency. Rishi Sunak appeared on national television Friday morning, looking more confident than he has in months. While the Prime Minister attacks British institutions, we defend them, he declared with perfect timing. While he creates chaos, we offer stability. While he disrespects the crown, we honour our traditions. The Conservative campaign machine immediately shifted into high gear. Attack ads appeared online within hours. Radio spots started running across key constituencies. Direct mail pieces showing the king alongside the message, "Who do you trust?" landed in millions of letterboxes. Sunak's approval ratings jumped 7 points overnight, according to YouGovernor. The Conservative Party is up to 33% in the polls, their highest rating since the election. But Nigel Farage is playing an even smarter game. He's positioned himself as the true defender of British tradition and constitutional monarchy. Reform UK released a statement praising King Charles for his courage and dignity. His Majesty has shown more leadership in one day than this government has shown in 6 months, the statement read. Farage appeared on GB News calling for Starmer to resign immediately. The British people didn't vote for someone who would disrespect our king, he stated calmly. His voice measured and reasonable. No shouting, no anger. Just measured patriotism that resonates with exactly the voters Labour is losing. He continued, "Our constitutional monarchy is the bedrock of British democracy. Attack that, and you attack Britain itself." The performance was masterful. Reform UK membership applications surged 340% in 48 hours. Their fundraising jumped from thousands to hundreds of thousands of pounds daily. Former Labour voters are switching to reform in numbers that pollsters describe as unprecedented. The polls tell a devastating story. Labour has crashed from 41% to 31% in just 72 hours. That's a 10-point drop. The largest single-week collapse for any governing party since records began in 1943. The Conservatives have surged to 33%. Reform UK has climbed to 19%, their highest ever polling. The Liberal Democrats remain steady at 11%. For the first time since the election, Labour is losing, and they're not just losing to the Tories, they're losing to everyone. The collapse is concentrated in exactly the demographics Labour needs: working-class voters over 50, traditional Labour heartlands, swing constituencies. Swing voters who backed Starmer in July are abandoning him in massive numbers. Focus groups conducted by Savanta show brutal feedback. "He's lost touch with British values," said one participant in Stoke-on-Trent. "He doesn't respect our history," complained a voter in Sunderland. "I can't trust him anymore," declared a former Labour supporter in Sheffield. These aren't Conservative voters. These are people who voted Labour 6 months ago and now regret it completely. By-election betting markets show catastrophic expectations for Labour. The next by-election is in Tamworth on February 15th, a seat Labour won with a 14% majority. Bookmakers now have the Conservatives as favourites. Some betting markets even show Reform UK in second place ahead of Labour. If Labour loses a seat they won 6 months ago, the rebellion will become unstoppable. The next 48 hours are absolutely critical. Parliament returns from recess on Monday morning at 2:30 p.m. Labour MPs are demanding an emergency session to discuss the constitutional crisis. Some are calling for a vote of no confidence in Starmer's leadership. The magic number is 20% of Labour MPs requesting a leadership challenge. That's roughly 90 MPs. Sources suggest they already have commitments from at least 60, possibly more. Conservative MPs are preparing to table a motion of censure against the Prime Minister during Monday's session. The motion will force every MP to publicly declare whether they support Starmer's constitutional proposals. Labour MPs in marginal seats will be forced to choose between their leader and their constituents. Many will choose survival. The government could fall within days. Constitutional experts are discussing scenarios nobody has contemplated in modern times. Could the king actually dismiss his prime minister? The power exists in theory, but hasn't been used since 1834. Professor Robert Hazel of University College London suggests it's possible if Starmer has truly violated his constitutional oath. If the Prime Minister has been working to undermine the monarchy while serving as the monarch's first minister, the king would have grounds to consider him unfit for office, Hazel explained. Britain is watching a Prime Minister self-destruct in real time. This crisis will be studied for decades as the moment a Labour leader forgot that British people love their monarchy more than any politician. Not since the abdication crisis of 1936 has Britain faced such constitutional chaos. This could be bigger than the expenses scandal. Bigger than Brexit. Bigger than anything modern politics has witnessed. At its epicenter stands Starmer, who looks increasingly isolated, increasingly desperate, and increasingly finished. International allies are distancing themselves. President Biden's spokesperson issued a carefully worded statement Friday afternoon, praising the important role constitutional monarchy plays in democratic governance. That's diplomatic code for disapproval of Starmer's approach. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney released a statement emphasizing Canada's deep respect for our constitutional monarchy and His Majesty King Charles III. Australian officials quietly contacted British diplomats expressing concern about the crisis. New Zealand's government issued similar messages. 15 Commonwealth realms are watching nervously as their shared monarch battles their British Prime Minister. The diplomatic fallout could reshape Britain's international relationships for years. So here's the question that matters. Did Starmer just end his own career with one catastrophic mistake? Or is King Charles overstepping his constitutional role? What do you think? Did the king have the right to demand answers this way? Should Starmer resign, or should he fight back? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because we read every single one. And if this story shocked you as much as it shocked us, Share it with everyone who needs to see what's really happening in Westminster right now. The mainstream media is trying to downplay this crisis, but we're giving you the full truth. Hit that subscribe button because tomorrow we're revealing the leaked WhatsApp messages that show exactly how Labour MPs are plotting to remove Starmer. The next chapter could change Britain forever.